Hey everyone, welcome back to MSEM Grand Prix. This is Time Spiraled. We are here at the quarterfinals of this Grand Prix. We've got two of our final quarterfinal players are going to be facing off and going for a shot at the semis, hopefully making it all the way to the finals and maybe a shot at the trophy. We've got Ricky Rister here today, piloting green, blue, we've been calling it beans. It's a green elemental circle deck. Instead of playing scam, it's just playing a lot of ramp, and I quite like this form of it. Meanwhile, Ducky is piloting black-red Sinful Tempter. So here we go. We've got a few hands of cards. You know our drill. We're just going to mouse over them quickly, give you a chance to keep an eye on some cards you might not have seen before. As always, please hit that pause button so you can get a chance to look at each of these cards individually. We've got stuff like Profane Emissary, Ruthless Mutationist to get some early haste going on, Chigao the Red Market to recur some of our creatures, Scorch can either go face or act as removal, and then a variety of different lands here in the format. Over on Ricky's side, we've got a Amber Hills being cracked here for a basic forest. We've got the titular Green Elemental Circle. We've got cards such as Primal Resurgence, this format's equivalent of Wild Growth. In fact, it used to be Wild Growth, but now it's a little different. At face value, it might look the same, but when it comes to untapping lands and reusing them, Primal Resurgence is a little more fair. You can't stack them onto the same land like you could with a Wild Growth. We've also got cards like Jeffrey Sage's The Finale, able to pull quite a few legendary blue cards. Amorphous Tyrant, Vile Progenitor as some of our evoke targets for Green Elemental Circle, and Lumbering Hillock, who is one of the format's, I would say, pretty nice creature lands, able to pretty consistently smash face. And we're picking up this alternate art Ramsey Traveling Merchant here, able to adjudicate lands, which allows you to untap them, which, well, functions fantastically after a turn 1 Primal Resurgence. So, yeah, our players are just starting out with some of their regular lines. We can see over here that Ducky drew into an Unfathomable Terror. Fleeting is a sort of evoke variant rather than giving you just necessarily an enter the battlefield or leaves the battlefield and then immediately sacrificing. Fleeting only sacrifices at the beginning of the next end step. Ironically enough, both sets that came into the format this month, Toll Midnight and End of Volancy, had evoke and fleeting on both their ends. That's my cat who says hello. She's going to be hanging out with us a little bit today. You might hear her occasionally. But like I was saying, it just so happens that both sets that got in had a similar mechanic. So we're seeing them being played here in the GP, so it's nice to know that the mechanic has some legs to it. You might notice we've done a slight visual change. We've gone just with a cleaner UI here. We're trying out a little bit of a full screen, and at the same time, we've removed all the little black name boxes on cards. If you prefer the black name boxes, do let us know. I believe that this lets you look at the cards with less interference, I would say, over them, you know? And of course, I'm mousing over things, and as you watch videos, I'm sure you'll be able to start picking up, the names of the cards. So Ricky calling out Sinful Tempter here. There's none in Ducky's hand, so it's not going to be a Sinful Tempter turn. Ducky decides to draw a card. I should check to see if Ducky's running at least one copy of Pollet Pool somewhere. Does not look like it, so we're not going to be seeing the Profane Emissary able to pick up a Pollet Pools to turn on. Usually it'll rely on Unfathomable Terror or Sinful Tempter to do its job. Ducky's going to think a little bit. I'm guessing with the 3 mana here, it's going to be a fleeting Unfathomable Terror. So the interesting thing about fleeting is because it sticks around till the end of the turn, you can give it haste with cards like Reckless Mutationist, and you get to get at least 1 attack here. Profane Emissary, now that we control a demon, should be a 4/4 with lifelink. So that's going to gain some life here for some players. And Unfathomable Terror has whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, which didn't happen here, but the player in question would have had to discard cards and then discard another card. And if they didn't, you would have gotten a bunch of Nightmare Creature tokens. So it does a lot. Thankfully, fleeting means it dies and it goes to the yard. But one of the neat interactions with cards like Fleeting or cards with Evoke, you can play them with Chigao, the Red Market, which lets you cast a creature spell with a chosen name from your graveyard once each turn. And, well, you can see where that's going. So, we are running out a Vile Progenitor here for the, I believe that was just the Evoke. That does trigger Green Elemental Circle, because even though it's evoked, it is a spell with mana value 5 or greater. We get our 3/2 Horror Elemental creature token. And I believe that we just drew into another copy of Vile Progenitor here in the hand. We also have Orichi of the Cold Mist. So funnily enough, even though the deck doesn't really scam quite as much, Orichi is capable of flickering a creature you control, and because it has flash, you can definitely save some of your Vile Progenitors from an untimely demise. But at the same time, sometimes just making 3/2s and drawing a bunch of cards is sufficient. We drew into Cantrip of Old Magic. It's a pretty good card in this deck. I think we brought it up the last time we showcased this deck. The fact that it has Inspirit means that it has a pretty good cost reduction on it, which means, you know, if you have cards like Amorphous Tyrant or Vile Progenitor that cost 5, you can pay, you know, a single green, and it's a 4/3 that when it enters, you bring back a card from your graveyard to your hand. So the card is very strong. So Amorphous Tyrant evoked here is important because it's going to allow one of the 3/2s to bite. I'm going to assume the Reckless Mutationist, since that's probably the scarier of the two right now. Without a Demon, Profane Emissary is, I wouldn't say just a 2/2. It's a 2/2 that can always draw a demon if you need to. But without the haste, Sinful Tempter and our dear Fleeting Unfathomable Terror don't do quite as much. All right, we've got a draw here. We're picking up a Rogar's Frenzy, which is a neat little instant that deals 3 damage, and then it has a mode where you can exile it from the yard to get 2 tapped 1/1 red elemental creature tokens. This card used to be like one of the absolute premium burn spells in the format, especially in early MSEM. We've pretty much had it since, I believe, AFM was in day 1, so it's nice to see this card is still hanging around, and I think it will continue to hang around for quite some time. Cracking the Shardstone Rift here to go find a Lavatorn Fields, staples of our format's mana base, which, by the way, you can now learn about in the new Staples guide, which is available on the Discord. So we're running out Chigao the Red Market. So the way it works is you draw a card, then you choose a creature card name, kind of like a failsafe in case you just simply don't have creatures in hand or you don't know what you're going to do. And then once each turn, you get to cast a creature spell with the chosen name from your graveyard. So there's a few options here. We could say Reckless Mutationist to get it back. And obviously we could cast it this very turn. It wouldn't do a lot, I find here. You could also name Unfathomable Terror to cast it, but without the ability to give it haste, that's not great. So maybe the correct decision is to... Oh, actually, you know what? I didn't even realize. We just went and named Sinful Tempter. So I'm assuming we're going to see a Profane Emissary maybe fetching a Sinful Tempter. Now that we're up to 4 lands, maybe 5, that would make sense. Neon Claw Knight. So when it enters or attacks, you get to pick one and you create a function token with that effect. One of the functions is Reduction, which makes a spell cost red less to cast. And we immediately consumed it to fire off a Scorch, taking out one of the 3/2 horrors. So trying to keep the board down a little bit. Ricky's got a lot of opportunities to rebuild that board. Cards like, as I said, Cantra, Jeffrey can get quite some stuff. And we drew into Vivian the Sagittar. The issue here, though, is that we've only got 3, 4 mana, 5 on, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4 mana with Green Elemental Circle for our 5 drops, and we haven't found a blue source, so these cards are currently, you know, locked in the hand. So Profane Emissary pays the big chunk of life. That's 5, but it lets you get your Sinful Tempter, and you know that even if your Sinful Tempter dies, you're going to be able to cast it again. The important thing is it says whenever you attack, not whenever Sinful Tempter attacks. So Rogar's Frenzy finishes off the 3/2 that we have here. We're going to see a Sinful Tempter drop, which means the opponent is going to lose 3 life unless they discard a card or sacrifice a non-land permanent. And we're going to repeat this process once. attacking for 5 between the two creatures on top of whatever happens here. So Ricky is discarding a Cantrip of Old Magic for the first, and then the process is going to get repeated once. So it's either going to be another discard, or we're going to see the Green Elemental Circle sacrifice, which I would be very surprised to see. I don't think Ricky's going to go down on either of the mana pieces. It's really what's going to let them reach cards like Vivian the Sagittar. So it looks like Ricky is still thinking about what the next option would be. Of course, if you're pitching both your Cantras, you're not getting much back, but Vivian's kit is pretty good, though this is a pretty strong board right here. So we're pitching Jeffrey Stage's The Finale. We're attacked for 7. Now that, pardon, I believe I said 5 earlier, but it's this is a 4/4 as long as we control a demon, and we sure did. And I believe we picked up a reduction function here. So Ricky's down to 10. There's another 7 here. We can always bring back Sinful Tempter with Chigao. There is a lot potentially coming up. Ricky drew into a Wayfarer's Shrine, so that's the 5th point of mana. Vivian the Sagittar's kit does let you defeat quite a few creatures, but you have to control some. Wayfarer's costing a life is what it is. We got a blue, so which means we do have access to Orichi of the Cold Mist. Jeffrey is unfortunately in the yard. So we're paying 5, we're drawing a card, which is a Lush Oasis in this case. Vivian the Sagittar wheels out. So the interesting thing about Vivian is the +1, you'll always use it. You'll mill 4 cards and bring back a creature card, mill this way to your hand, because it always allows you to activate a different loyalty ability. So you can then use the +1 to create a token. You can use the -3 to do some damage, and if you manage to get up to that whole -9, you're going to have a really big board. So let's see what Ricky picks here. Without having creatures on board, Amorphous Tyrant, I would say, weakens slightly. Vile Progenitor is likely the one that can create, I would say, the biggest board here. The fact that it creates... Oh, pardon me, it's getting a little late here. I can feel it a little bit in my bones here. It's been a long day, been up since like 6 a.m. It's a 3/4. You can actually just hard cast it at this point. You'll get a 3/2. You'll drop a land. You'll get another 3/2. Vivian can do the other +1 or the -3. There's a lot of things that could happen here. We are behind, but we're not critically behind. So okay, yeah, we do grab the Vile Progenitor. Having the 4 toughness here also is like not nothing against cards like Neon Claw Knight, and there's that 2/2 I was talking about. And it's nice that when it dies, you just gain 2 life. Vivian just does a lot. I'm really excited to play with this card. It's so fun. All right, so we picked up a Nebula of Empty Gold. Not necessarily the best, but the interesting thing here is we no longer have to just fleeting cast Sinful Tempter. We can just straight up hard cast Sinful Tempter. So it's going to stick around permanently here. There's no counter spells coming our way. So Profane once again is a 4/4. Neon Claw being just a 3/1. Maybe we hold it back so we don't run it into a 2/2, but it depends how much pressure we want to put, pardon me, on either Vivian or on the Ricky's life total here, because the longer we let Ricky tank like this, we know that a Vial went back to hand. We know there's a Cantra. Ducky doesn't know there's a Cantra and Orichi. There's just going to be a lot of stuff that could happen. In fact, if we're able to combo it off here, we could even do Evoke, Vile Progenitor, draw a card, Orichi on the Evoke, so you get another 3/2, and suddenly the board's starting to look a lot more in Ricky's favor. The kind of things that can make a big difference are drawing into Scorches, drawing into other pieces of removal. Any of the burn spells, if they start going face, Ricky's 9 life is going to go down quite a bit. All right, so threatening to remove Vivian, I totally understand why we'd be doing that. I can only imagine that the decision is whether or not you want to lose access to the -3 on the following turn. If yes, you just chump block with the Cat Spirit, going up some life. But if you want to remove some of the pressure on the board, you can take out the Neon Claw Knight, but then of course Vivian goes down to 2. Regardless, we have to resolve the attack right now. So each opponent has to lose 3 life unless they discard a card or sacrifice a non-land permanent, and we repeat the process once. So let's see what gets chosen here. Funnily enough, if ever a Sinful Tempter is on your opponent's side of the field and you've got Neon Claw Knight, I mean, you've got all these functions you can just sacrifice, which is always fun. I like that we went and picked up, we've already got the cost reduction, and now we have the additional damage, which means our Scorches are now doing 4 points of damage, which could be a relevant pain point. You know, we've got 5 on an attack here. I could see that being relevant. Ricky's in a bit of a bind. Obviously doesn't want to pitch too many of their resources, too many of their cards. Yes, you sacrifice the spirit, but then obviously... Did I miss a discard? Or okay, just wow. Ricky's saying, I'm taking the 6, I'm blocking, I'm going to gain 2 life and trade out the Neon Claw. And yeah, let's just make sure that the 4 damage is marked here on Vivian. So Vivian could have access to the -3, but obviously you'd have to entirely get rid of her. So Ricky draws into an Amber Hills, another shock fetch. 5 life is probably not where you want to be when you're having to pay 2, so that's the kind of card that, you know, would be tapped. Oh, yeah, we had missed a 4 life here on Profane Emissary hits. It'll be important that players just keep an eye on that. Sometimes it's hard. It's easier actually for us to miss those kind of things, because when a lot of events happen in the chat, it's kind of easy to lose track of that. In the yard here, we've got that Rogar's Frenzy, so there's always still the option if we don't draw anything that we can just pay 3, exile it, get 2 tapped 1/1s. So Vivian's going to +1. We're going to pick up a Performer of Growth. Yes, you read that correctly. It is a Squirrel Actor. Villains the Musical is just a phenomenal set. It takes place there's like a really big story, and on top of it there's a lot of the characters, I believe, represented by these like curtain frames. This is a story that's happening like on the stage. Of course, you'd have to double check with Cajun to make sure that I'm not just spouting silly stuff, but I believe that's how I remember that concept working. So we've got the Lush Oasis, which obviously will enter untapped. We do have basics on both sides here. We're tapping 1 green for the Vile Progenitor, which I had mentioned last time would be something that we could see here, and I'm assuming that's going to be an Orichi. So the way Orichi works is you exile another target creature you control, and then it'll come back at the beginning of the next end step. I believe we have a green left open here. That could be another green elemental circle. That could be another tap. We could get Performer of Growth out. Performer of Growth, I might as well show you the backside. It flips into Ray the Supplanter, which is a 3/3, but it gets +1/+1 for each forest you control. And yes, this is a Forest Animus, so, you know, 3 forests on the field already. It's a 6/6, and on top of it, I believe, beginning of each player's end step, if they didn't play a land this turn, you just get straight up a forest token. So, nope, we're going to play Cantra. So because Orichi is a 2-drop, it costs 2 less, and it costs 2 less because of the green elementals, so we get the full discount here. We draw another card. We drew into the Ramsey here. And because Orichi is now tucked away, if ever we lose Cantra of Old Magic, Orichi will come back, can maybe do some more shenanigans here with Vile Progenitor. You can definitely expect Vile Progenitor to see a change at this point. Council has been discussing it a lot, and votes are coming. So I have mentioned a lot as the designer of the card. It is slightly overtuned in how I expected it to perform, so you can definitely expect some changes to the card. I would assume it will reduce its play rate, not, I would say, extremely, but definitely not as good as it is right now, because right now, boy, does it just do a little too much in terms of absolutely going wide. All right, so drawing into a Profane Emissary here. There we go, 4/4. Which isn't bad because, you know, losing the other one to the Vivian shot is, you know, never great. We're attacking for 5 here with Sinful Tempter. We're going to have to resolve the discards and sacrifice, which, of course, we're starting to have a few cards in hand that Ricky can definitely toss. Not that you would necessarily want to toss everything, but we're pitching Performer and we're pitching Green Elemental Circle at this point. Ember Hills here is quite nice. We can get a landfall trigger. And if you hold off the sacrifice till your opponent's turn, you can get another landfall trigger. So we're going to trade here. Cantervold Magic is going to block the Sinful Tempter. Both are going to die. And yeah, Sinful Tempter can always be brought back with Chigao, but here comes Orichi. Enters, is going to exile that Vile Progenitor again, and is going to land it back at the end of the turn. Up to our third 3/2 horror creature token. Draws into a Jeffrey stage as the finale. Not necessarily, I would imagine, the card you want right now. I mean, there's a few cards like Aerith Mire Dredger in the list that are quite nice to pick up. Among other things, I would have to check real quick to see what else is in the main board. We have cards like Aerith, Orichi. Oh, Panya is not bad as well as a extra turn enabler. So there's quite a few things that we could see happen. How much mana do we have here? We've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, technically 6, 7 here for 5 drops. So you could pay 3 for a Jeffrey stage as the finale, and you would still have almost not there. Okay, not 100% the mana that we need for dropping a fifth of 5 mana cost. So we'll see. There's options. Of course, one of the... Oh, hold up. This should not be... We're just going to make sure that Profane Emissary isn't marked incorrectly. Yeah, your opponent might be still thinking it's a 4/4. It is not. It is a 3/2, which definitely changes the math here on the kind of combat. So 2/1 flyer here can't be blocked, but we've got a bunch of 3/2s. I would imagine the Profane's not just going to run itself into any of them. Ricky can just definitely regenerate as much as they want. So that was an 11-point swing here. That was not nothing. Tapping for 2, Ramsey is going to create an Adjudicate token. I'm assuming that's going to go on this basic force here so we can reuse it if we need to. We're going to drop a Amber Hills tap, not paying the life. That's going to give us this horror, and then Jeffrey's going to enter. We're going to pick up a legendary blue card, reveal it, put into our hand, then shuffle. I think Aerith is just maybe a little slow. I think you do just go for Panya maybe. Panya with the extra turn just gives you the damage you need by attacking twice. There it is. I don't believe we can cast it, but yeah. Paying the 3, we're getting the 2 tapped 1/1 red elementals, but I think it's a little too late. Ricky has definitely developed a really scary... Oh, hold up. Hold that thought. Drawing into that 3 damage, the fact that we have the extra point that's 4, if we can sneak in even a single point of damage here, it's going to make a big difference. Okay, we're hard casting Sinful Tempter. Interesting. I wonder if there's a world... Oh, hold up. I'm wondering if there's a world where you just pay the 2, you pay the black-red, fleeting, you attack, but if Ricky's thinking correctly, you just sacrifice something like your 1/1 Antelope, maybe a 3/2, or even Ramsey itself, and you still have blockers for what's going on here, right? What do we have? We got 4 blockers for 3, so you definitely don't want to get rid of all of them, but I mean the 3/4 blocks quite a few things. Profane Emissary would go back up to lifelink if Sinful Tempter came out, but you definitely don't, I don't believe, pay the life at this point. Your opponent just drew a card and didn't immediately slam it, so usually it's a sign that it's a burn. A little bit of a pinch turn here. I mean, I think Ricky has it as long as Ricky pays attention. The only kind of... We are like 1 damage short. It is incredible to know that even a single extra point of damage here would have done it, because that would have been 4 damage with the Rogar's Frenzy. So let's see. Yeah, that'd be 4, so we'd go back up to 13. And of course, anything that blocks would die. The 2 1/1s can be blocked relatively easily. you definitely don't want to let any point of damage through. And if we're paying attention to the field, and Ricky knows what's in the hand, so okay, so there we're seeing it. Just the black-red play. The thing about the black-red play, though, is you're pretty much announcing to the opponent that you plan on doing something else with your mana, because otherwise you would just pay the 5 and I believe keep the 5/4 around. So this attack, I think we're just going to see everything get blocked. I mean, that's what I would do here in this situation. My opponent just said, hey, I'm not going to fully hard cast my 5/4. I'm just going to semi-cast it. So the question is, what's blocking what? So 3/4 and an 0/2 on the 1/1s. I mean, I would assume we're seeing... Okay, there's the 1/1 on the 4/4. All right, everything's blocked like we thought. Gain the 4 life. Ricky didn't take the point of damage, so, I mean, you can always run Rogar's Frenzy at any point in time. You don't have to do it right now. How much damage? Well, I mean, Ricky's got, we're at, well, actually, you know that they've got Panya, so if you would have had the damage, you could have killed, but I think the correct, I wonder, I don't even know if you have a window to hit Panya before you activate Sorcery Tail. That'll be an interesting thing. I don't believe so. You cast your Resolve, and then with priority you cast the tail, and then, I mean, that's just kind of enough damage all around. Land enters, Vile Progenitor makes another 3/2. We're casting Panya here. Great Escapade is a 5-mana spell, so it does cost 1 less. Oh, sorry, no, these are just green. It does not cost 1 less. But Jeffrey Stages the finale will bounce Profane Emissary. The tail has been told, I believe, so that should be quite a bit of damage. 9, 10, 11. And then whole extra turn here should be it. Yeah. Unfortunately, even with Rogar's, we were just shy 1 point of damage. It's just wild to believe. So we're going to see players moving on to sideboarding here. We're going to shift over to the internet ourselves. Just get a chance to look at what they're possibly bringing in. Ricky has Ulton if ever there's a need for life gain. I'm not necessarily sure you do. Vivian's already give you some. You have a lot of recursion. Could be. I don't think we're running. So, funnily enough, Killia can also steal, I believe, function tokens. It doesn't say creature token. That could be interesting, but I don't think so. Amorphous Tyrant just beats up a lot of stuff on their opponent's board. Aurora Hydra, you're not really facing a hex, a can't be countered, but the hexproof definitely isn't nothing, I would say. I still don't think we're going to see that come in. Forbidden Treasure, maybe, just to make sure you get rid of the Scorches and the Rogar's Frenzy, which is what gives you reach, but I think your deck's already doing pretty well. I mean, you've got some big toughness out there, you've got a big wide board, and if you need to bring in more Amorphous Tyrants, like, you can. Over on Ducky's side, we've got Hungering Cult, which can give you quite a bit of life. Not sure that's what you're going to do. Mephisto's Gate and Retire as just 2 pieces of Destroy could be interesting. And Apraxia's Endeavor can get rid of the 3/2s, but I believe it's the Exile player's Graveyard that's probably more relevant here. I would imagine we see Duress coming in because the ability to hit green elemental circles and other key pieces out could be more important. And I don't think we're going to see Metal Munch coming in here. So, yeah. I mean, you know your opponent can loop things out of the graveyard, kind of like what you're doing, so it's not nothing. So actually, going back real quick to Ricky's, maybe we do have a better reason for the Ulten because of the shuffle mode as well. Being able to put back the Chigao targets and even cards like Rogar's Frenzy could be risky though, but could be what we see. I don't think we're going to see Amulet of Loyalties. Yeah, Duress and Apraxia's. I mean, destroy removal isn't horrible. I mean, you're so close to just nuking your opponent to death. I mean, if you get a crazy start with Reckless and then something like right away, that could make a big difference. So, all right, our players are ready. Let's go on back and see what's happening here. Okay, cool. Duress is in hand. That means I was somewhat correct. It's unfortunately we don't know if this is a sideboard Amorphous or just the main board one, but we're starting with the Duress. I think you hit Primal Resurgence here. There's only 2 lands. That's like your third. Uh, your other options would be Vivian and Jeffrey, which are both good cards, but I think keeping off the early mana is really important, which means that Ricky doesn't really have a turn 1 play here, depending, of course, on the draw. Ricky has some really insane luck. Certain cards seem absolutely glued to their hand, and it's quite funny. So Shifting Glade coming out. Issue with 2 Shifting Glades is without basics, you're slowly going to bleed yourself to death as well. Here we have the red. I'm assuming that's going to be Neon Claw Knight here coming out early. We're going to pick up a free function. I would assume it's the cost reducer, and then maybe we're going to see early Bite Blitz just fire right off. Yeah, which would give +2/+0 in haste. We'll be able to swing for 5. And then, of course, create another function. I guess I would just... Another reduction makes sense, considering that Bite Blitz can be cast from the graveyard. So, nice. Nice little opener here. Chigao is cute, but of course we don't really have a target. Second Shifting Glade comes out. Ricky's going to pay 2 life. We're going to see, I believe, an evoked Vile Progenitor, I would imagine, to get a 3/2 body on the board. Something to contest. Of course, the interesting is you can run the Neon Claw Knight into that. You can pay for Chigao. You could name Neon Claw Knight if you wanted to. So there's a few things you can do here. Never have to do it early if you don't need to. Saying, all right, swing for 3. We're going to create another reduction token. So instants and sorceries now cost red less to cast. Rick is going to consider whether or not we're taking the 3 or we're just trading. Obviously, figures if Ducky's just swinging in a Neon Claw Knight like that, doesn't mind losing it. Figures, yeah, that's probably a Chigao. We're not getting both back this turn, but Chigao into the draw card could be into a Reckless. But of course, we know there's another Duress. So, all right, the trade happens. We're going to go to second main phase. We're going to fire off the Duress first. It's fine. Well, it's either the stage or the Vivian. I mean, you know that one of them is happening, so I would also go for the Vivian, yeah. That's the one that has the greatest potential to slowly, well, not even slowly, but just like, pretty decently put the game back into a winning position. Next turn, if we get to, well, okay, we drew Chigao into Chigao. Next turn, being able to pick up a Halford if we get to 4 is quite interesting. Yep, so Neon Claw Knight has been named, so we're going to see NCK coming back out. I'll just keep the graveyard here in the corner for us. Ricky drew into the 3rd land, so that's Mysterious Cataract here. Can slowly start getting basics to turn off these Shifting Glades from bleeding you to death. But not the strongest start, I would say, for Ricky. It hurts that we're having kind of like the tutor package, which is normally what we kind of want slightly later once we've got all our green elemental circles and our ramp out. So that Duress taking out the primal on turn 1 was really good. And second Vivian being the Vivian being hit is just, cherry on top, as we say. So I guess the consideration is whether you pay another 2 life, going to 11 to get a basic, but then you're still paying another 2 life. And boy, dealing 4 damage to yourself really hurts. And yeah, you're picking up a card that you maybe need. Morichi can only flicker your own things. Amorphous Tyrant needs a target already. It cannot bite by itself. That would be very gross. Okay, we're playing it tapped. We're going more conservative. There's always the chance of flashing in an Orichi as a blocker. Drew into a Profane Emissary, so not the 4th land, and none of the burn spells that these could just fire off almost for free. So the important thing to remember is Bite Blitz is still in the yard. I know I obviously blinked for like a moment and forgot it existed, but the fact that it is there means we can run out a card like Profane Emissary. Um, Interesting. Not Neon Claw. I wonder if there was a reason. Maybe we should have brought out Neon Claw, because then the reduction could mean that could get Bite Blitzed, and then suddenly you've got another 5. I don't know. I mean, next turn is going to be pretty strong. I mean, you've got a 2/2 Profane Emissary. You can always pick up the demon of your choice, which could be Sinful Tempter. So here we're cracking the Mysterious Cataract. A third Jeffrey stage is the finale. I say probably not what you want, but we're doing the Orichi play this turn. Okay, so just to have a little friend here, and what's nice about it is the Orichi is just going to punch the Profane Emissary. So Amorphous hangs out, comes in, and then Orichi does a 1/2. All right, so now the question is, oh well, hey, Reckless is always nice. These are legendary, so no, you can't have 2 on the field naming 2 different creatures. You're kind of stuck with 1, so if you want to cycle it for a different one, you'll have to do it that way. So the 1 Neon Claw is here. Problem is now there's a 6/5. Your deck is not necessarily great at dealing with 5 toughness. So honestly, that blocks pretty well. Neon Claw going up to a 5/1 means you're probably just going to throw the Orichi into a block. I don't think you let yourself go down to 6. That gets pretty risky with cost reductions. You know, that could be 2 Scorches out of nowhere, as far as the opponent knows. Reckless Mutationist can always sacrifice Profane. I mean, there is a second mode here, but like that's at least a few turns away. I don't think that's what we're doing anytime soon. There was a decent advantage here, but it is hard to leverage just 3 lands when your opponent is able to, you know, put out a field a 6/5. So there's Reckless, followed up by Neon Claw Knight, and now we can pick either can be countered. I think it's just going to be extra damage at this point. Yep. Every one of these that we can load up is going to be highly relevant. Ramsey's neat here, giving you 2 bodies and the Adjudicate, so you get an extra untap. Adjudicate. I'm actually never really sure. I believe I've pronounced it at least 3 different ways in the past couple of videos, and maybe even this one, so. Let's go with Adjudicate. I don't know. We adge the land. Just in case you don't know what that means, it's this part right here. You create a white enchantment aura token that has just sack this token, untap the land. So our dear little Amorphous Tyrant here does have Vigilance, which is nice. So you can just clock in for like big damage. Ramsey here is going to clunk up the board a little bit. He's going to put this, I'm assuming, on... Yeah, okay, that makes sense on the basic. All right, board's starting to look in favor. All right, I didn't even get a chance to see the card that Ducky drew, but it wasn't enough. The opponent's board got pretty big, so it is a scamless deck, but Orichi does do the one scam that you need. So I appreciate you all stopping by for this match. Hopefully we can catch a few more videos, semis and finals before the end of the month. If not, definitely stay tuned. October 1st-ish, you should have a new video with the next patch and some pretty big changes, I would imagine. And so yeah, stay tuned, and don't forget to keep an eye on our content and our other content creators' this video. So have a good one, and see you in the next one.